Hello, everyone, and I'm sad to say, welcome to this concluding video for our course, Ethics. So you stuck with it. It was a difficult course, no doubt for almost all of you. You know, it was for me when I originally took it. If I didn't, if I wasn't super familiar with a lot of this stuff already, it would be difficult going through it. Right? Difficult as it might be, hopefully you felt like some of it was entertaining, you know, going through and learning about some of the stuff. You enjoyed maybe some of the videos. And if nothing else, obviously, I hope you felt like you learned a lot, right? That maybe we don't have answers ultimately, right? Maybe you ended up with more questions than you have answers, but hopefully you still felt like you gained something out of the class, right? Because I think no matter what class we take in philosophy, the one of the best benefits of philosophy, arguably the best thing we can get out of anything in life, you know, is training ourselves to be more critical thinkers, you know, to question things. And, you know, hopefully you feel like, if nothing else, you've improved in that respect. I think also, you know, I hope that, you know, I alluded to how difficult this class is, no doubt about it. You know, most of you probably feel like I'm a difficult, hard, you know, grader. You know, the writing, the essays are difficult. But, you know, I would argue that also another thing you glean out of philosophy, especially in academia, taking a philosophy class, I've always said, the number one thing I got out of it was becoming a better writer. And I earned my fair share of crappy essay scores myself, believe me. Thanks, Dr. Fent. Um, so, you know, I can definitely sympathize, but hopefully you can appreciate, you know, even if you have that sense that, you know, through the course and through trying to improve how you did on your essays, you did become a better writer. That you know, you did that in a few ways, hopefully. You know, you learned how to, you know, better defend your positions on the issues, or at least what you're saying, and provide support for it, right? And then, you know, also being able to put things in your own words and find a voice for yourself and become better at conveying your own understanding of these points. All of that, you know, goes into, I think, what constitutes a good writer, and that's something that is going to benefit you no matter what you're doing in life. I mean, you know, you have an issue with someone or some entity, you got to write a letter. You know, hopefully you're a good writer, right? Because then you can make your points better and you'll be more convincing. So even if we didn't arrive at any definitive answers in this class, you know, hopefully you still became a better thinker, reasoner, however you want to put it, and so too a better writer. You're better able to convey your better thinking, you know, through your better writing. So again, one of the things I wanted to mention is that I do recognize the difficulty of the course, as I've said from the outset, right? And if you go way back to the intro video, I acknowledge from the beginning that, you know, this is a difficult course, and it only gets more difficult if you are to continue down your path in philosophy. But you know, I do think I've been fair. Um, you know, at giving you 30 plus, you know, plus 30 points on literally a letter grade on every essay. So I might have a certain, you know, more critical way of grading, you might say, on the essays themselves. But then I throw in, you know, you have 4 essays worth 50 points each, and then I throw on 30 bonus points at the end. You know, so even if I only gave you 35 out of 50, only on, you know, those four, I'm actually giving you 30 divided by 4 that much back, right? So the whole point is, and the reason why I do that is because I have a certain way of grading them, and so um, you know, I have a certain idea in my mind of what a, you know, 35 is, and so on. And so to adjust for the difficulty then of the course and the fact that that might be a little bit more strict than, you know, other classes, you know, then the thought is, okay, throw in that 30 extra points, and you know, I think that's at least fair, right? And you'll still get, you know, obviously almost every student is going to get tons of comments on those first 2 quizzes, and so hopefully, as I mentioned, you know, as I mentioned in my announcements, don't take it personally, right? Everybody's getting that. I'm trying to help you become a better writer, a better thinker, as best I can. I'm not perfect. I might even screw up in some of the things I said, and some of the comments I might even screw up. You know, I'm not perfect either, but I'm trying to help you genuinely, right? So you probably sense that for the most part, but you know, I do appreciate how a philosophy course can come across for rookies, people have never taken a philosophy course. It is difficult. The writing, being able to defend what you're saying, that's not a point of emphasis in most, if any, other classes. That is what's emphasized in philosophy. So that can be difficult. But again, I think I'm fair. Um, I do want to point out, so I mentioned lots of comments on the first two quizzes. You won't have few, if any, comments on the final quiz. So on the flip side, you probably get them back a lot sooner. But really, usually all I have, because there's no improving them for another quiz, right? The idea is I give you lots of feedback, especially in the first one, almost as much in the second, and then the third one, there's no other quiz down the road. If you have particular questions, by all means, contact me, and I'd be happy to elaborate on why you got the specific grade. But I will then. So basically, usually though, all I'll provide is just the numbers. Then the essay specific numbers. Then that you can go consult the key, just like the first two, to find out what those indicate you did not adequately talk about or didn't talk about at all. And then the general points, right, that we have a key for as well. I'll provide those numbers, but there won't be any comments like there were in the first two. But again, feel free to contact me should you desire to talk more about it. Okay, so what to do if you are crazy enough to want more? You've swallowed that philosophical pill, and now you can't help but continue down this path to truth. Okay, well, we have Intro to Philosophy, where we talk a little bit about ethics, but then we talk about all the other branches of philosophy as well, at a basic intro level, which is arguably just as difficult and confusing at times as everything else we talked about in this intro level ethics course. But you do the same sort of thing. We'll talk about a lot of cool things. What actually exists? Is there, two types of existence? Is it all in my mind? How do I know for sure that you are still out there when I stop perceiving you, right? When I stop existing, when I die? How do I know that there's a reality that continues to exist? These sorts of things sound interesting. Sign up for Intro to Philosophy. There's also logic. I teach that literally every semester, or at least have for years. That is the oddball in philosophy. That is the one that has a completely different feel, because it's more mathy. It is more, you might say objective. Again, it has that kind of mathematic feel. We talked about logic in lecture 2, obviously. But it has a completely different vibe than your typical philosophy course, I would say. But still, very, very important. If you actually are so interested in philosophy that you want to pursue a degree in it, you're going to need to take logic. So, and if you just want to really focus on gaining clarity and becoming a critical thinker in and of itself, that's what logic's about. Of course, philosophy in general is all about that, and that's why I always do spend some time in lecture 2, typically, when I teach an intro class, talking a little bit about logic. Philosophy in general is logic and critical thinking applied to various issues. But if you really want to take a class focusing on that itself and becoming really good at that, that's what logic would do for you. At some point down the road, once I finish doing, I finish these ethics videos and probably do some videos for my logic class. But then I do plan on offering some, upper level courses at Johnson County Community College. Some of the things I have in mind are utility of religion, offering a course where I kind of work closely myself in planning it, with my dissertation. I have a lot of material, in other words, already, so I could see that being offered very soon. I'm very interested recently in the intersection of technology and happiness. We have this tendency to think we have it so much better than everyone else, centuries ago, but is that really the case? And so I've been fascinated by that sort of question. Are we in fact maybe less happy than we could be without all these technological advances? So that's actually what's been of most interest, arguably, to me recently. So I could see myself offering a course on that very soon. I have written a lot extensively on Plato's Republic. I've read it numerous times and have had an interest in really going and diving into that in detail and offering a course on that. So I could see that being offered here down the road. And same with Nietzsche. Again, just I've done a lot with him already that, in fact, recently I've gone back, since all of his works are in the public domain, you can get audiobooks, and I run a lot, and I've been going back in order, and just partly because of the lecture 18 I was just got done doing, right, going back and in order and hearing all his uh, books again. And so I've worked a lot with him. I could see myself doing some sort of course on him. Now, if you're interested in what I personally think, so inevitably, um, I'll get emails from students. What is it you actually think? What is your take on ethics and so on? And hopefully, if I do a good job, you have to ask me, right? That's not clear. I think if an instructor, it's at least a philosophy instructor, if they're doing their job at least as good as they could be, I think you should try to present it as neutrally as possible. And so I like getting that question in some sense because it does mean I'm doing something right. Um, and so I always kind of hold off on, I always say when I get that question, typically, contact me after the semester is over, and I'll share my thoughts typically. But so I always get that. And if you're just interested for whatever reason, or you want to hear more about, various philosophical questions like why is there something and not nothing, and is there anybody out there? How do we really know that? And then my stance on those issues. I'll actually be doing a series, and I've started some of these. Uh, I call them episodes, where I'll explore certain of these questions and then give my take on them. So get into the philosophy, and then I'll offer my own positions on those issues. And so you will see actually what I think about them. I call it the Great Philosophical Abyss. And that's a reference actually when I first started teaching. I had a list when I would come in, I'd sit down and a list of numbered questions. And I'd say a number, or I'd ask a student for a number before I took roll. And so I'd read off that corresponding number, cross it off so we wouldn't go to that one next time or anytime down in the future. And while I was taking attendance, then I'd read out the question. They would think about it then while I was taking attendance, and we would come back then after attendance and discuss the question and what we thought about it. And it really warmed. It tended to relax people. They because philosophy can be very controversial at times, and it just warmed people up. It warmed us up to do the kind of heavy duty intellectual thinking that Immanuel Kant would recommend or require later that night, right? It did a good job of warming us up and so on. And the students really enjoyed it. I guess what I'm saying is the students always seem to really enjoy it. And so I was reminded of that. And I'm actually, a lot of the questions I'll end up addressing then are going to be solicited from that same list. So that was the impetus for me calling the series The Great Philosophical Abyss. So another way you can satisfy your philosophical urges if you find that you have them. Okay. And the final thing I guess I would mention and leave you with is that, again, if you are kind of interested in discovering philosophy, pursuing it more, but maybe not in a class per se, but maybe more informally, again, besides the Great Philosophical Abyss, there's the Philosophy Club, through J.C.C.C, which I plan on becoming more and more involved in as well. I reached out to Professor Gale, another professor, in the department, earlier this semester about wanting to become more involved in that as well. So a great way for students who are interested to then get their philosophical fill, if you will, in a more relaxed, informal setting where you don't have a grade riding on whether or not you pay attention enough and so on. So I think that's it. Hold back the tears. It might be rough, but we'll get through. And who knows, maybe I'll see you down the road for one of my episodes in the Great Philosophical Abyss, or one of my other lectures in a different class, or maybe I'll see you in some other capacity down the road. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the class and felt like you learned a lot, and good luck in your future endeavors. Thanks.